Hi everyone, this is Cooking with Kurt. Today my husband Donald and I are going to show you how to make buko pie. I'm originally from Los Baños, Laguna in the Philippines, and buko pie is a specialty of my hometown.
And I was lucky enough to try it when we visited a few years ago. This recipe was requested by a lot of you. Thanks so much for your requests, and we hope you like this video.
The filling is traditionally made with fresh young coconut slices that are sealed in a flat top crust. We're making a few variations with ingredients that are available to us here in the US. Interestingly, the original Filipino Buko Pie was inspired by the American apple pie, and in that spirit, we're going to make a lattice top crust for our pie. To start, we're going to make the flaky coconut pie crust. Take the bowl of your food processor, add in 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of loosely packed unsweetened shredded coconut, 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Pulse to combine the dry ingredients. Add in 1 cup, which is 2 sticks, of cold unsalted butter that's been cut up into 1-inch cubes. Pulse the food processor till the pieces of butter are the size of small peas and the mixture looks like coarse meal. Add half a cup of ice-cold water and continue pulsing until the mixture just comes together. Transfer this mixture into a large mixing bowl and compress the dough just so the dough holds together into one piece. Cut this dough in half and shape the dough into 2 discs. Wrap the 2 discs separately with plastic wrap. Place the 2 discs of dough in the fridge for a minimum of 1 hour or in the freezer for 15 minutes to chill the dough and ensure the butter stays cold.
Eagle-eye viewers might notice that we have new aprons. It's back to school time here in the US, and much like the kiddos, we've got new outfits. Let us know in the comments section below if you like our new aprons.
When your dough has chilled, flour your clean counter. Take one of the discs, leaving the second one in the fridge for now, and place the cold disc of dough on the flour and roll it into a 13-inch circle using a lightly floured rolling pin. Gently fold it into quarters, transfer it into a 9-inch pie pan, trim the excess dough that's overhanging over the rim of the pie shell with scissors or sharp knife so the edges of the dough are sitting on the edges of the shell. Our ceramic pie shells are very slippery, and our pie crusts tend to slip and shrink during par baking. To flute the crust, I like to press my thumb on the dough and use my forefinger and middle finger to make a V shape, pressing from outside towards the inside. This way, the crust will cling onto the pie shell rim during the par baking process and will create a nice wavy pattern along the outside of the pie. Put the formed pie crust in the freezer for a minimum of 30 minutes. When the formed pie crust has chilled in the freezer for 30 minutes, we're ready to par bake the pie crust, also known as baking it blind. The pockets of butter will melt and release steam to create a flaky texture, and it will also remove moisture and prevent the base of the pie from becoming soggy.
Exactly. It'll ensure that the crust is crisp and flaky throughout the pie.
Place an oven rack in the lowest position and preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Place your frozen pie shell in the middle of a sheet pan or baking dish. Cut a round piece of parchment paper that has the edges cut into frays so that it folds into the pie shell easily. The parchment paper will prevent the foil from sticking to the crust. On top of the parchment paper, place a double layer of aluminum foil that is also circular in shape with the edges folded up, and press the edges of the foil against the edges of the pie crust. The double layer of foil will help support the walls of the pie crust and prevent it from sagging during the par baking process. Finally, place baking beans or weights on top of the foil and spread them out. We're using ceramic baking beans. Par bake your pie crust on the lowest rack at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 minutes. Then take the crust out of the oven and carefully remove the foil with baking beans and the parchment paper. Using a fork, dock the bottom and sides of the pie crust to deflate any puffing in the crust. Tent the sides of the pie crust with a ring of aluminum foil to prevent the side edges of the pie from getting overbaked. Crimp it down and secure it to make sure it doesn't fall off. Return the pie crust along with the baking dish it's on into the oven and continue par baking on the lowest rack at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for another 10 minutes. Remove it from the oven. Peel off the ring of foil, but save it as it will get used again later. Again, using a fork, dock the bottoms and sides of the crust to deflate any puffing up as needed. Let the par-baked pie crust rest at room temperature. You can keep the oven on at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for now.
Now that our crust is ready, we're going to work on our creamy coconut filling. Take a large mixing bowl, add in 3 large room temperature eggs, 1 14 fluid ounce can of unsweetened full-fat coconut cream or full-fat coconut milk, 2/3 cups granulated sugar, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter that's been melted, 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1 tablespoon of dark rum. Whisk these together till they're well combined and smooth. Then stir in 1½ loosely packed cups of unsweetened shredded coconut. Set this pie filling aside for now. So as you can see, we're doing the classic Kurt and Donald edition of adding dark rum to our pies. But don't worry, the alcohol gets baked off, leaving just the delicious flavor of dark rum that goes so well with coconut.
Exactly. Rum makes everything better. We're also using shredded coconut instead of slices of young coconut, which can be a little tricky to find here in the US. Shredded coconut also lends itself to being eaten in small bites, which makes it just a little less messy.
More rum, less mess, it's a win-win.
That's a great way to put it. Moving on, take a small bowl, add in 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of water. Beat this egg wash until it's smooth and set it aside. Flour your clean counter. Take the second disc of dough out of the fridge. Place the cold disc of dough on the flour and roll it into a 12-inch circle using a lightly floured rolling pin. Using a knife or a pizza cutter, cut the round of dough into strips. They can be any width you like. We like to make them about 1 inch thick. Add the coconut filling into your par-baked pie shell. As we mentioned in the beginning, we're making a lattice top crust for this pie to create a subtly textured look on top. You can also just place the rolled out circle of dough directly on top of the pie and poke holes in it to vent steam. Moving on with a lattice top, place strips in one direction over the top. Again, you can choose how far apart the strips are. I'm placing them about 1/4 inches apart. Fold back every other strip. Then place a strip of dough perpendicular to the others at the point where they are folded back, and refold down the strips. Next, fold back the alternate strips, i.e. the ones that weren't folded back earlier. Place a strip of dough perpendicular to the folded back strips, and repeat the process until the lattice pattern covers the entire surface of the pie. Some of the liquid from the coconut filling may spill over and meld with the lattice strips, and that's okay. The end result will still be textured and pretty after it bakes. Trim the excess overhanging dough from each strip, and press the ends from the strips into the fluted pie shell that has been par-baked to bind them together. Reshape the fluted edges as needed. Gently brush the surface of the lattice thoroughly with the egg wash. Brush the par-baked sides as well. Finally, sprinkle the top generously with coarse sugar. This step is optional. Bake this on the lowest rack at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, take the pie out of the oven and add the aluminum foil ring from earlier to tent the sides of the pie crust to prevent the side edges of the pie from getting over-baked. As before, crimp it down and secure it to make sure it doesn't fall off. Turn down the temperature to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and continue baking for another 30 to 40 minutes, or until the top is nice and golden brown in the center. Be careful not to over-bake this pie, otherwise the filling will have a dry texture. Remove the foil ring, and let it cool on a metal rack for a minimum of 2 hours before slicing. And there it is, a Filipino Buko Pie. Creamy coconut filling in a buttery, flaky pie crust from scratch. Ang sarap.
Ang sarap. Yum.
So good. That flaky, buttery crust is amazing.
There's coconut in the crust and in the filling. This is hands down the most coconutty dessert I've eaten. Love it.
Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know in the comment section below if you're planning to make this buko pie. Send us pictures of your creations on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, links below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Cooking with Kurt.
And don't forget to click on the bell so you get notified when we post new cooking videos. And for our written recipes, be sure to check out cookingwithkurt.com. Maraming salamat!